Hi everyone, Pastor Jimmy. We're going to continue with our study in Philippians. This video will conclude Philippians chapter 1 as we look at verses 27 through 30, verses 27 through 30 in Philippians chapter 1. In the other videos, we've seen an introduction to the book. We've seen Paul's joy in writing to them, why he wrote to them. He's told them to stay strong, shown that because he's in prison doesn't mean that all is lost. And people are beginning to preach the gospel with boldness, and that people are beginning to preach the gospel in other areas. And because of that, people are coming to know Jesus Christ. As he concludes this chapter, as we read verses 27 through 30, in this video, we'll see the challenge that he gives the Philippians before he moves on to the next part of the letter. So verse 27 says, "Only let your conduct be worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of your affairs, that you stand fast in one spirit, with one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel, and not in any way terrified by your adversaries, which is to them a proof of perdition, but to you of salvation, and that from God. For to you it has been granted on behalf of Christ not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for his sake, having the same conflict which you saw in me and now here is in me." And so we see Paul give them kind of a warning, but we also see in verse 27, he gives them a challenge. And to me, this is one of the main parts of this part of Philippians, in these verses of Philippians, is this challenge. Verse 27, "Let your conduct be worthy of the gospel of Christ." Your conduct here. He was telling them to be good citizens of the kingdom of heaven. Let your conduct be worthy of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is so hard in our day and age with social media and everything out there for Christians, it seems, to be worthy of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Well, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that we let our conduct get in the way. People look at us and say, "Why do I need Jesus Christ? If you're going to act the way you act just like I do." Or our social media or other places where we put things out on the internet, or the way we act away from church or with our family. People do not see Christ. Paul's warning them here. Only let your conduct be worthy of the gospel of Christ. Let everything you do be worthy of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And then he says, whether I'm there to see it in person or whether I'm absent, let me hear of your affairs, that you stand in one spirit and one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel. Listen to what he's saying. He's saying, no matter where you're at, no matter if I'm there watching you or I'm a million miles away in a prison in Rome, behave the way that you're supposed to, that is worthy of the gospel. And then he goes on and takes it one step farther. He says, stand fast in one spirit. Get along with each other. Help each other. Don't be ashamed of the other people that have decided to follow Christ, that are in your congregation. Help each other. Stand strong in one spirit and one mind. And that one spirit and that one mind has this purpose: for the faith of the gospel, to tell others about Jesus Christ, to live your life for Jesus Christ, to have a living witness in your own life and the lives of those around you that are in that church for Jesus Christ. That's what he's trying to get across to us here. Let us strive together. And when we do that, verse 28, here's the great news. And not in any way terrified by your adversaries. If we can stand in one mind, one unity with Jesus Christ together, know the gospel, live a life worthy of the gospel, then we have nothing to be afraid of our adversaries. The only thing they have to do is to try to come in and make us be fearful. If we overcome that fear with Jesus Christ, they have no other weapon, so to say, that they can use against us. So let your faith stand strong. Stand up to those. It is a proof of salvation from God to you when you stand up. But you must let your conduct be worthy of the gospel. You must live a life of Jesus Christ, of living for Jesus Christ. You must live a life where others see Christ flowing through you. And then in verse 29 and 30, though, he gives us a little warning. For to you it has been granted on behalf of Christ not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for his sake. When you live this type of life, when you live a life that is living for Christ, when you live a life where your conduct is worthy, when you have a church who is unified in one spirit and one mind to spread the gospel and to help the gospel of Jesus Christ, then what we see is their persecution is going to come. The suffering is going to come. Paul's saying, just because I'm suffering doesn't mean that you're not going to. You're going to go through the same suffering that I'm suffering. But he's also telling them, listen, just because you're suffering doesn't mean that God is abandoning you. It doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. probably means you've done something right in your life. So if you're suffering, being persecuted for Christ's sake, keep doing it. They've already done it to Paul. They're going to continue to do it to you. They're going to do it to us today. But Paul said, persevere. Let others see the gospel in you and keep living. Some people would see these last few verses as, oh no, what am I supposed to do? Talking about persecution. But Paul, I believe, was looking at excitement in them, saying, live this life, stand up for Christ, and see the great things that Christ wants to do. And so my challenge for all of us as we conclude chapter 1 is to look at our life and see how we can live our life with a conduct worthy of the gospel. How we can be as a church unified in one mind and one spirit to go forth and tell others about the gospel of Jesus Christ. Not to be fearful of the persecution or the adversaries that come about, but to stand strong on the foundation of Jesus Christ. Stand strong on His Word and live our lives the best we can, the way the gospel tells us to live. That is our challenge as we end chapter 1. As we get into chapter 2, there will be more challenges for us, but right now, just pray and ask God to help you live your life worthy of the gospel so that others may see His light and His life flow through you as we conclude this chapter.